Hello and welcome to another video by the Backup Chargers. I'm Faceless Menace. Today we're doing a deck profile on Water Zander Allies. This is pretty familiar to a lot of older players. It's kind of a classic deck. This is my take on it, what I've been enjoying playing at locals. So to start, I'm just going to get right into the material deck. We start off with a Spirit of Water. Really just want normal Spirit. You need the cards in hand. Also having 7. One of the big things of this deck is you want to be able to keep balance pretty easy. 7 is a really nice number to start with for that. Our champion is, of course, Zander, Prepared Scout. There's an argument for running Tristan over Zander, but I prefer being able to get a little bit of a bonus plus the prep rather than prep or the agility. It's just a little bit more relevant in this list. Next for our draw, we are running GCR, Firebobble, Backup Charger. So all three of these, GCR is kind of the most generic, obviously. We're running Firebobble main with the other two inside, and a Backup Charger. Specifically Backup Charger in this list because we, of course, being water, we have access to Fracturize, which is just another interesting play we can do. A couple of automatons in here. Doesn't really come up, but it is an option. Next for our utility pieces, we are running Blinding Orb, Mercenary's Blade, Poison Dagger, and Cloak of Stillwater as our kind of specialized pieces. So just kind of going in order here, Blinding Orb is really useful because sometimes when we're trying to balance, costing 1 and not immediately drawing is actually really useful. Forcing the opponent to put cards down, also very good. It can kind of help us to just guarantee they don't have as much interaction as they might have otherwise. We are running some negates in here, but keeping their interaction to a minimum is always ideal. Mercenary's Blade, it's just a weapon we can use with Zander. We can use extra prep if we have it, otherwise we can just materialize it, nothing wrong with that. To be honest, you could replace this with any kind of generic sword if you'd like. Mercenary's Blade has been pretty good to me so far though. We are also, of course, the Poison Dagger. We will at some point want to have our board full of allies for our win condition. Poison Dagger gets us there a little bit sooner. Cloak of Stillwater, it's for slower matchups. It can help against Tristan, helps against ponies, etc. It can really help establish just a kind of a nice protective layer of 3 damage, which is kind of the threshold for a lot of decks right now. Then for our generic utility, we are running Sensor, because of course we're in a fire meta right now. Safeguard Amulet, just for any kind of non-combat damage, and Terrafring, for any allies that come into play. Being able to fight board presence more effectively in trade is always good. Playing against suited, etc. That's the material deck. So now going on to the main deck, we're first going to go over our kind of powerhouse beaters in the list. Starting off with 4 copies of Sea Sprite Diver, 4 copies of Gildas, 4 copies of Lurking Assailant, and 4 copies of Frostborn Paladin. If your opening hand has 1 or 2 of these, they're going to be great. Sea Sprite Diver is not as good of an opener versus Lurking is obviously the best opener. Frostborn is still pretty good. These are all basically just on-rate allies that are 2/3s. Gildas ends up being a 4/3 most of the time. Frostborn ends up being a 3/4 sometimes. And Sea Sprite ends up being Graveyard Banishment, which is really important right now to get rid of Liminals, Float in general. Can help against Genbu sometimes if they just are kind of missing that number of water threshold. We're not running Lantern, that's something you could do, but it's not really come up. Gildas is going to be the biggest beater in the list. It just being able to hit for 4 consistently almost every single turn is really big. Frostborn Paladin, you don't really care about the draw, but it can come up. Otherwise, a 3-cost 2/3 intercept is still just really good. Just really good rates, right? Then for our other allies that are kind of beefier but not super big, we're running 3 copies of Saudi and 3 copies of Halakline Scout. Halakline is another Poison Dagger basically. Has to be class bonus just the same, it can rest stuff. Has extra synergies with stuff like Snow White, which is on the side in this list. But the big thing with Halakline is it's able to both hit a lot of damage against the opponent and clear their board after they've already kind of committed to an attack. It can help you kind of just get that extra damage through where This plus, say, a Sea Sprite Diver can translate to a lot more damage than you would have otherwise, right? Saudi is in here as a 3-of. You could do less Saudis. It's not the end of the world if you do. It's not that impactful. The matchup sort's good. It's pretty good having that agility to be able to hold up your Fracturizes, Frostbites, etc. is really good, but otherwise it's fine. It's an ally that's really difficult to kill, so you can keep up your info. For some of our kind of smaller allies, we are running 3 copies of Lunette, 3 copies of Snow Fairy, 3 copies of Nia, and 4 copies of Sable Remnant. So Lunette is here just for allies, pretty obviously. It really helps you kind of control the state of the game. Your opponent having to deal with it at 4 is even better. Staying balanced and holding up interaction is really difficult, if I'm being honest, because then if you use the interaction, she goes down to a 1/1. But it's still making the opponent not have that tempo, having to reorder stuff even if they do clear on 1 turn, is always good. It usually results in you having a little bit of a tempo gain either way. Snow Fairy is a 3-cost 1/2 stealth, and sometimes has upside. It's really hard to clear. Being able to lock down an opponent's ally is really good. I'm probably going to put this up to a 4-of if I can find space for it, but I really like it right now, at least as 3-of, just to occasionally see. 3 copies of Nia, really, really good right now into any kind of deck that needs to level up to all the way to 3, because anywhere along that time before they get there, you can name that champion, and they're going to have a hard time. Ideally, you do this turn 1 going first. So if you lost game 1 and you're going first, using your opener, Nia is pretty much the best possible turn 1 play, especially because afterwards, turn 1, she's still a 1/3 even without the stealth class bonus. If you're able to keep her with the stealth and make the opponent's champion cost 2 to level 1, that can just really mess up their influence the rest of the game, really. 4 copies of Sable. Sable's here because if your opponent wants to clear it, they're going to have to give you resources. So it sort of goes neutral. Not all the time. There's still Censor in the format, even in this own deck. But it can leverage stuff into Frostborn, use it for stuff like Blinding Orb, etc. Otherwise, it's still just a 2-cost 1/1 that can be a 2/1 most of the time. And you can leverage that with your Halocline Scout to actually hit for 3. Really solid card. Some people don't like it, but I actually really like the utility it gives. Last allies we are playing 4 copies of Gorhazi Trapper and 3 copies of Thronekeeper Bullfrog. So Trapper is here exclusively defensively. It's there to, again, that 3 damage threshold is really huge. Just like I said with the Cloak of Stillwater, and this can kind of leverage to even more results. So if you're hitting, say, a Wind Wake Up deck, you can target their guy that's going to be waking up a whole lot, and they're not going to be able to get too much damage through. And also getting a prep on enter just in general is really good. Stuff like Mercenary's Blade, etc. Thronekeeper Bullfrog, it's probably the best taunt in the format right now, especially for this deck. I know Sour Shieldmate costing 2 over the 3 is a decent argument, but I actually like the 3 cost because, again, getting balance with Gildas and Lunette is really big, so costing 3 is actually an upside most of the time. Next up, for our non-allies, we're running kind of a large package with this. Might have to move some stuff around. But we are running 2 copies of Incapacitate. In fact, I'm going to move this up a little bit. So, Incapacitate is a very good negate. It's here just to hit win conditions, more or less. Being able to hit Riles somewhat early in the game is also very good. It's just a very strong card. It's probably the best negate. We are also running 3 copies of Frostbind to supplement it, though, as well. The 5 of those together, you can kind of mix or match whichever kind of combination you like, but that's a lot of negates. Gives access to a lot of utility. You can stop the opponent from, again, early Riles is really huge. Be able to stop a dungeon guide or force them to put extra cards down if they don't want to. That's also pretty big. So, really good card. Next up for our kind of defensive package, we're running 2 copies of Deflecting Edge, 2 copies of Song of Frost. that's our real defense. We are technically also running 4 copies of Fracturize. I don't really count that in the same boat, though. It's not quite the same. So, Deflecting Edge, Song of Frost, really good for just protecting the board, preventing your opponent from going for big kills or stuff like Shadow Strike. Fracturize is more utility. It is a float, so you can use it to Fracturize your Power Cell token and get a draw off of your Frostborn Paladins. Stuff like that. Really good card, obviously, just not as much utility as I would expect in this list, but you still kind of have to run it just to respect the certain decks that need their material deck card, or their regalia, etc. So, for example, being able to Fracturize a Votive Runeblade after the opponent has a full Onslaught combo is actually really good, because then they can't really get in for as much damage as they'd like, so they don't have as much damage as they need to deal, right? Then we're looking at 2 copies of Zhuchang. This is just another form of interaction for the opponent's early allies. It sort of acts as an ally in the fact that the opponent has to deal with it in order to play more than a single guy a turn. So it does kind of leverage itself more than you'd think. And lastly, 3 copies of Thieving Cut. I use this to push for late game damage more than anything, but you can also just kill an ally with it and go neutral with the prep counter you get from Zander 1. Really solid inclusion. So as you can kind of see from the overall list here, a lot of beaters, a lot of stuff that's kind of hard to deal with in the form of Snow Fairies, needs once you got a class bonus, Sables that the opponent doesn't want to deal with, Saudis that you can just bounce the hand, some defensive pieces. The overall goal of the deck is just keep board presence, apply pressure, and keep board presence. If you can't keep board presence, you're going to have a rough time. You will be fighting suited for board presence constantly. But you are favored into that matchup because of stuff like Lunette. You have more interactive pieces than they do, which makes it very good. Lastly, we're going to go over the sideboard. So sideboard is pretty open-ended right now. I don't have it fully made. I will have the full sideboard in the deck link description once this video is up. But right now, like I said before, we are running 2 copies of, the 2 other baubles, the Water Resonance Bauble and Wind Resonance Bauble. Just to swap out for the matchup, you do really need a few draw pieces. The 4th Lunette is in the side, along with a 3rd end cap, just to make those matchups a little bit easier. 3 copies of Snow White, just for the level, any kind of level 3 decks, really solid into. 2 copies of Extricating Touch. If a deck is really weak to end caps, it's going to be really weak to Extricating Touch. I wish I could run Regal Inquisition, but obviously we're not going to Advanced Element, so can't really utilize that. I have a couple extra slots in here, so probably going to be filling them with Staggering Strikes, because that's really solid, just getting that True Sight, being able to hit over stuff like Vanish from Sight, Innervate Agility, etc. Just be able to push extra damage, remove prep from some champions is really good. Sideboard is kind of inconsequential, at least at the moment. This is kind of just what's been working really well at locals. But yeah, that's the deck. If you have any questions about it for me, feel free to go ahead and ask in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Really appreciate all the support we've been getting. We are just about at 150 subscribers. And yeah, really happy with how the channel's been going and everyone's support. Thank you, and hope you have a good day. Bye.